Welcome to the Vet Med Wellness and Leadership Podcast, where we discuss central challenges vet med leaders face, such as burnout, stress, and difficult interactions with clients and staff, just to name a few. In each episode, you will hear about actionable solutions that you can apply to your practice and invitations to connect with fellow leaders who are passionate about improving the wellness of the vet med profession. By subscribing, liking, commenting, or sharing this podcast, you are helping more veterinary professionals find the resources shared in these episodes. Thank you in advance for listening and supporting this show. I hope you enjoy it. Hey everybody, Crystal Stokes, and joining me today is Dr. Pam Hale, who has held numerous high-level leadership roles within veterinary medicine, from chief of staff to chief medical officer. She is a highly engaged veterinary industry consultant, as an operations, startup, and firm-building subject matter expert. She's also the graduate from Tuskegee University, College of Veterinary Medicine, and she earned her master's in business administration from St. George University. And Dr. Hale is currently working on her Juris Master's degree with Florida State University, and she shares her home in Atlanta, Georgia, yay Southerners, with 5 cubs and her husband, Chuck. And today, Dr. Pam is going to be speaking with us about money in vet med, especially wealth building, and how to respond when clients claim that you're only in it for the money and why it might be okay to be in it for the money. And this topic naturally brings us to the ever-important issue of leadership and why we need more veterinarians in leadership positions, especially those that are calling the financial shots. Dr. Pam, thank you so much for being on today.
Hey, Crystal, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk about my passion, my profession that I wanted to be in since I was 7 years old. And luckily, I've been here and been successful and want to share that with everyone.
Oh, fabulous. I love these stories when people knew when they were little kids they wanted to work in vet med, and that is so special. And I also think the topic today of money is quite special because it's something that people often struggle with and can have many mixed feelings about. I thought we could lead into it today with speaking about wealth building. And what is wealth building all about? Should we feel guilty for wanting to build wealth? Is it okay?
You know, veterinarians have struggled with this for years. We often say, well, we went into this profession to take care of pets and it's not about the money. But you know what? We live in a society in which we have to have money to pay our bills, to pay our school loans, to raise our families. And so we should be proud of the fact that we're highly educated professionals and that we deserve also to build wealth in the profession that we love. And the way that we do that is, of course, by providing great pet care for our pet parents and to know that it's okay to be successful. Because think about it right now. The veterinary medicine world is the darling of the private equity world. In other words, they are investing in our profession in droves. They want to buy our practices. And there's a reason for that, because we are successful financially and it is helping them to build wealth. So why shouldn't we share in that wealth as well?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. I think that you are speaking to the elephant in the room because we've had many people come on that speak to corporate versus private, and the financial side, I think, is a part that sometimes gets left out that we may not feel so comfortable talking about. Do you have any aspect of your own personal journey of when you came to realize that wealth building was okay and you had to make peace with that, or has this always been something that you've been comfortable with?
You know, I've had to make peace with that because I came up in the generation about 30 years ago or so, become a veterinarian, where, we often said, well, we won't make over $50,000 a year as a veterinarian. That's what I was told when I graduated. And I remember thinking, well, okay, I've never made $50,000 a year. Luckily, our salaries have grown over the years. One, because our value is being known to the public. Pet ownership is increasing exponentially. I mean, we were one of the businesses during COVID that were overrun with clients, and we still are. We actually have a shortage of veterinarians in our community. So yes, I had to make some peace with it myself. But I have over the years, because one, I have wanted to start a family. I have wanted to show others how they can be successful in this profession and ownership of practices, whether it's on their own or owning it with other doctors or owning it with a corporation. So again, wealth building and success is not a bad word. In fact, think about it. You as a client, do you want to go into the dentist office that's run down, that you can see they have old equipment, they're not keeping up with technology, they barely have any staff working, they're not following proper hygiene or whatever? No, you want to go into the business that looks successful, they're up to date. So our veterinary practices, we have to keep our practices up to date as well with proper equipment, with well-trained staff, licensed veterinary technicians. All of that is part of running a business, and it's okay to even let your clients know when they are concerned about the cost of their pet care. Why is there such a cost for their pet care?
Okay, let's go right there, because I'm imagining, I was thinking back when I worked as a veterinary technician and I was in North Carolina. So we definitely had clientele who financially just could not afford some of the services that may need to be provided. And occasionally we'd hear that common refrain of towards a veterinarian, you're only in it for the money. And that really stung. How do you...
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it does. I tend to, I haven't heard that too much recently, but I have heard it in the past. And I do know that doctors still hear that. I don't always come back with an immediate answer to that, not in the way that they ask anyway. I sort of sidestep it. It's what I'm going to attack, because when you think about it, also that person is under stress. They're probably dealing with a medical case that they weren't planning to deal with, an unplanned expense, I guess let's put it that way. And a lot of our pet owners still do not have pet insurance. So here they are suddenly having to come up with $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $2,000 to care for their pet. So of course they're angry. And so I always try to empathize first, because, I have unexpected expenses also in my life. So what I try to explain to them is, yes, I definitely understand why this may seem to be a very high bill for you, or because you weren't expecting it. But please know that we will provide the best care for your pet. We have the best veterinary technicians here. We have the best equipment here, and we'll do the best we can with what you're able to afford as well. So I want them to know that it's not so much so that we're trying to do something extraordinary with our fees and costs. They are fair fees and costs that we have to charge our clients, and that we are a one-stop shop for them to take care of their pets. In other words, we have diagnostics there. They don't have to run around town to different places like you'd have to do in human medicine sometimes. And that we're also part of the community ecosystem of the business community there. We're there to be successful, to also support that community. We have jobs there for local staff members, from our technicians to our other doctors, to kennel workers, to groomers. And so we're also part of contributing to their economy in that town.
Mm-hmm. I really like how you provide education. So you first connect with the client and say, I understand this may be very stressful. It's a unexpected medical expense, and that's hard for anybody. And then you connect with them through explaining more of, how veterinary medicine actually works and what are you actually paying for? Because I think sometimes that's just not evident, especially in the model where, a lot that goes on is in the back of the hospital. We don't get to see all the equipment that has to be paid for, all the lab work that's being done, all the staff that is behind the scenes. We just might see a front desk reception, a staff member, one technician and one doctor, and not realize all that goes into running that business.
You're absolutely true in that respect. And so it's just a process of stepping back, not confronting them, acknowledging their concerns that they're having, working out some type of either, whatever payment plan that you can with them, or whatever they can do for that day for that pet, but not being apologetic for what you have to charge for your fees. It's okay to say that these are our fees and we stand by them. And because of that, you will get the best care that we can provide for your pet. So it's okay to be a successful business in the community and to relay that to clients as to why you're successful. Remember, we are highly educated professionals. We go to school for 8 years, and some of us even do advanced training. We study all kinds of species, very different from human medicine. So therefore, there is a part of that in which we should also be rewarded for our expertise and our skill that we bring to pet care.
What do you think are some of the top sabotagers? So when you meet with veterinarians, whether they're new, they're green, they're just out of school, or maybe they're seasoned, they've been in the field for a long time, but you notice that they keep making decisions that really don't lead to wealth building. What do you think are some of the core reasons that happens? What's preventing them from achieving it?
With younger doctors, it's just probably inexperience. I can think of myself as a younger doctor. Sometimes you doubt, you doubt the decisions that you're making for that pet care. Am I making the correct recommendations for the diagnostics, for the treatment plan? So you sort of doubt yourself, and then you start sort of whittling away at your treatment plan even before you give it to the client. Lucky for me, I had a really good mentor in my first practice where I worked in Tennessee, in which he said, make the best decision for the pet. Let the client then decide what they can and can't do. But if you don't let someone know what their pet really needs, then you're doing them a disservice for the pet and for that client and for yourself as a veterinarian. So go ahead and put it all in there if the pet needs a certain lab test, x-ray, or medications, and don't think about the prices. In fact, that's what we tend to do now in veterinary hospitals. We try to separate our doctors some from the costs. In other words, write down doctor or put in the computer system doctor what this pet needs, and then tell the client what they need. And then the staff will usually go over costs with the client. However, there are times when the doctor now, you will be discussing costs with the client that I don't think they'll ever go away for us in our profession. And I would say for experienced doctors, sometimes you've had a bad experience. So sometimes you've had a client get really angry with you. And in this day and age, where they can go on immediately social media and post about something they may be upset about, then you may have had a bad experience because you really did believe you were given the best estimate and treatment plan for a client. And say, I've had the experience where actually the pet got better, did really well, and then still get a negative review just because it costs a little bit more than the client wanted to. So those are the negative, those inner critics that you have to push out of your mind, because you know that you made the best recommendation for that pet. So for young doctors, it's just probably training and educating. And for our experienced doctors, continue to provide the best care for that pet and put those inner critics out of your mind.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like where we're going with this. That inner critic can be very powerful. And sometimes it operates under the radar. We don't even realize that it's making a lot of decisions for us that may not actually be helpful. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we have to be careful of it in the veterinary world. We're normally rated like that in the top 3 of most loved professions, like right behind human nurses, I think. But we're also sometimes, because we are a cash business, we have very little, insurance. Most of our pet parents in the U.S. do not have pet insurance. So we will sometimes get beat up by clients just because of the cost of the care. They love us and wish we could provide it for free. And I've often said, if I could provide veterinary care for free for clients, I definitely would. We just don't live in that kind of world. And we don't live in a world where to have the best equipment, the best medications, and the best staff, they are not free. So therefore, we have to have appropriate charging structures and fees for clients to cover all of that. And then also for me to, and the doctors and everyone to make a living.
Yeah, I really appreciate this message. I wonder, I'm trying to put myself in the position of being a veterinarian. And let's say I do have some student debt, but I've done a pretty good job of paying it down. And maybe right now I'm in a corporate position and I'm making my salary that is based on production. And I'm kind of just going through the motions. Like, I think I'm doing okay. But when I think of the word wealth building, right away what comes up is a sense of I'm being greedy, or just stay in my lane. Just keep my head down, keep doing what I'm doing, keep on the traditional path. Would you have any advice for someone like me that might fit that archetype?
Well, we'll think about it. I mean, a wonderful thing has happened in veterinary medicine. Our salaries have increased commensurate, probably with our education. We probably should have been making 6 figures 10, 20 years ago, but that's just come about in the last 10 years or so, in which doctors can come out of veterinary school and make 6 figures. That's great. However, this is what I say to doctors. If you're working somewhere and they're paying you, we'll throw out $150,000 to $200,000 salary, which are salaries that I hear about out there now and even higher. That means that business is making even more money off of your production. All right. So if they can make money from you, what you're producing, why can't you make that money for yourself, either as an owner or a co-owner, owning your own business, or owning a business within what's called a hybrid model, in which you own maybe up to 40 to 49% of the business along with another company that helps you. So I want people to think about that. You are working and giving your time caring for pets, which you love, and you're making a good salary and you think you're doing great. So after 5 years of making $200,000 a year, you've made $1 million. Great. But guess what? If you had been an owner in that business, even a partial owner in that business, you probably would have done 3 to 4 times that. In other words, $3 to $4 million that you would have been able to pay yourself in a combination of salary and dividends, of course, from the profits of your business. So that's what I want you to think about. It's not so much, am I being greedy? It's so much, what is my fair share of this business that I'm helping to grow?
Yep. I had a personal experience I'd love to share. It's smaller peanuts, but it definitely speaks to this phenomenon. So it was when I was in grad school, I was working on the side as a personal trainer, and I was being paid $45 an hour for the service I provided. The clients that were members of that gym were paying $120. So do the math. That the company that I worked for was making a huge profit off the service I provided. Now, granted, for many people, it's worth it because they're also paying for the facility, this beautiful gym, and all the perks that come with that membership. But it made me think, well, what if I went rogue? If I left the gym and I did in-home training or training in parks, or just, the market says that I could technically charge $120. People are willing to pay $120 for an hour of my time, but I was only valuing myself at $45. And I think bridging that gap can be very challenging for people. I think there is a sense of how much I am worth as an individual. And I think that people have to wrap their heads around not looking at it from that perspective. It's not necessarily a matter of how much you're worth. It's what will the market pay, and looking at all that you've invested in your time and your energy to go to vet school and to educate yourself and to become specialized. And if the market can hold this, then you deserve to reap that benefit.
Right. And veterinarians, typically, we tend to be very feeling people and very kind-hearted people and altruistic people. We really do want to give as much as we can to our patients and our pet parents. But what's a great part about that is if you're an owner in a business, you can set up a charity within your business so you can help those clients that can't pay their full bill. So there's a way that we can still feed that part of our psyche as veterinarians, but then also still then if your business is be more successful, then you get to set more money aside to help people to provide care for pets who may be indigent pets or something like that. But what I just would like veterinarians, young doctors, and I know some of them see business ownership as daunting, as, oh my God, I don't know how to run a business. I have these school loans to pay for. Well, guess what? If you go into running a business, say 2 or 3 years out of school, and I agree, probably your first couple of years, you just need to work, get your clinical skills down, maybe mentor and shadow under another business owner so you can see what it's like, get an idea of how to run a business, or work in one of the companies in which you can be a partial owner. But I would say after 2 to 3 years, you need to look at how can I use my skills that I have now for myself and help me to build wealth for my family. I mean, I see many young doctors, they're starting their families, they're with their partners and having children. They want to buy homes, but they still want to pay off their school loans. If you become a business owner, you'll be able to pay off that school loan a lot sooner than you would. And the models that I'm talking about, the hybrid models in which a doctor owns up to 49% of the business, you don't have to worry about all the back office piece. They're going to handle, that company is going to handle your marketing and your payroll and your HR. You get to practice great medicine, lead your team, but then take a big chunk of those profits from that hospital.
That's really exciting. I'm glad that you're so well versed in the different types of models and you can speak a bit to that. There's one more thing I want to throw in. It's a little bit of a plug, I suppose. I have no affiliation, but I had this guest on my podcast earlier. There's a company called Vetcelerator. And what they do is they provide all of the benefits of corporates. They do the HR, they can help with your operations, marketing, IT, but they take no ownership, zero ownership. It's fee-based. And so if people are interested in that, you can go back to that previous episode or just type Vetcelerator in. I think that's a really comforting option for people that maybe don't want to give up equity. They really do want to maintain full ownership and full control of the decision-making process, but they absolutely feel like they need help with all of that back-end work. Because I think that's what scares, like you said, it scares a lot of people. It can feel really daunting, the idea of having to run a business while also practicing medicine. And I think that if people don't step into that in a thoughtful way and have some plans in place, or like you said, do mentorship, they can easily end up burned out.
I thank you for sharing about Veterinary. I've heard of them. And I think any service that can help veterinarians be better managers and leaders and learn how to, financially manage and understand their business is great for the profession. So yes, if you want to own your business completely, but you just need a sort of business coach. They sound like they're sort of business operational coaches. I've done business and operational management in many veterinary hospitals. And I find that doctors, we don't get any of that training in veterinary school. They're starting to do a little of it now, but we get very little of it. It's not anything that's mandatory. They may have it as an optional class that you can take in vet school. So sure, you come out of school without understanding a P&L and how to manage your team and what a successful hospital looks like financially. So yes, of course, it seems daunting. So those type of services would be great. There are also buying groups out there that provide management support and helps you to buy your products at a lesser price because you're part of a group. That's one of the things that you don't get when you're in a large veterinary group. You don't get that buying power. The economies of scale is what we call it. But you can be in a buying group that will help you with that as well. The thing is, this profession is amazing. This profession is supposed to grow it's like $100 billion pet healthcare world out there, with veterinary medicine, I think, is about 30% of that. And it's expected to grow over the next 10 years. I forgot the percentages, but it's like amazing the growth that they're expecting in the pet healthcare world even. So I just don't want veterinarians, who are the main drivers. Well, how about this? We are the only drivers of pet healthcare, to get left behind in the wealth that's been built in this market. There's no reason that we shouldn't be sharing in that more.
You all are literally the workhorses. You are the ones doing the labor, the day in, the day out, but taking care of the patients. It's so true that we have these large entities, like you mentioned earlier, private equity, that sees what's happening. They're reading the tea leaves. They've seen the money that's coming into vet med, and they're very smart in snapping up opportunities to capitalize on this. And I feel like what's the message you're bringing today is really to motivate people to get back in there, roll up your sleeves, take back some of that leadership. This is your work. You are the ones doing the work. You deserve to be paid for it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And business ownership is, just there are very few people in this country that get to be business owners. And that's where the wealth is. I was talking to the founder of Pet Desk yesterday, Taylor Kavanaugh. It is a widely used app that's used in the veterinary community. And he talked about, he has a wonderful scholarship program that helps veterinarians, minority veterinarians specifically, with funding to help them open a veterinary hospital. And his drive is, that is how you build wealth. And it's almost sometimes reserved for just a certain segment of people in the world. And really, we should be, especially in the veterinary world, we should be offering that opportunity to many, many more people. And many more people should know about the opportunities that are out there. And you can go today, banks will loan to veterinarians. If you want to build a veterinary practice, you can get a loan from a bank for that, because they see how successful this market is and our profession is. And it's not slowing down in the private equity world. They are still out there wanting to buy veterinary practices. And I want to go back. I want to make sure people understand, I don't have anything against private equity money. I think it's been good to infuse it within our profession. It has helped us to build nicer facilities, keep our, get very nice equipment in our facilities. Our salaries have gone up as well, but we should be sharing in more of that. In other words, when a private equity buys a veterinary hospital, they should offer either the veterinarians that owned it or other veterinarians in the practice some stake in that business. And in all actuality, it will benefit them too, because then you'll have a doctor that wants to stay that's invested in the business.
Yes, absolutely. There was an episode earlier with Dr. Ivan Zach, who he's working on a model that actually has all employees having some part of ownership, so that that apathy that tends to happen when we no longer have ownership, we're just working for somebody else and we don't have decision-making power either, that often sets in, is nipped in the bud. So we can give people part ownership of a company and have them feel like they're invested in the success of this company. You will see rewards beyond your salary if you can contribute to the longevity of this company. It's really a win-win.
Absolutely. And that's my message is, as I see more of the hybrid models come about, or I see more of young doctors come out. That I was recently at Auburn University and Tuskegee University presenting to students, and we would ask, how many of you want to own your own practice? And I would say 90% of them raise their hands. They want to, they just need to know how. They may need help. They understand. I think they're starting to understand their value these days. It's not just in coming out and getting a 6-figure salary. It's when you own your own business or part of a business, you also have equity in that business. In other words, you can own it for 20 years and then you get to sell that business, to hopefully another veterinarian that's in your practice, but you have equity. It's the difference between renting and owning a home, right? So that's how I see business ownership. And my thing is, I'll go back to what you said. We are the workhorses of this profession, and we need to make sure that we're getting the premium grain.
Yeah, I totally love that. That's such a good analogy. And anything else that you'd like to speak to when it comes to the leadership aspect as well? I know there's so many facets of leadership, but I know we're specifically focusing in on leadership and money. I wanted to make sure that I didn't leave anything out in that aspect of the conversation today.
Well, I have been, I guess, the only thing that I think about that I would like to see more of is veterinarians, even if it's in a private equity company or if it's in a large group, as more veterinarians are in those leadership roles within, as CEOs or COOs. Obviously, if you own your own veterinary practice, you're going to be the CEO. So that's pretty much a given. But we need to make sure that we're keeping veterinarians in the forefront of leading, even in multi-unit groups, because there's always a concern that medical decisions will begin to be made by people that aren't veterinarians. And we need to make sure again that we don't lose control of our profession. And that if I could say that again, that we do not lose control of our profession and decision making around medical care, around the medications we have, around how we, hiring of our team members, around how we work, that we're not being overworked as well. So veterinarians need to be in the forefront of veterinary leadership in veterinary facilities and businesses.
I'd like to just take that little soundbite and play it on repeat. That is so important. I noticed too when I was, reading your intro today, that you have your MBA. Was that motivated by your interest in what we're talking about today, like leadership and how businesses are structured and the finances behind businesses? Like, what drove you to get your MBA? Because that's kind of unusual with us, as a DVM.
Yes, I would say we're, probably, I do run across several DVMs with MBAs, and it's usually because we've been working in some industry roles that required us to either be responsible for, big portfolios. At one point, I was responsible for over 200 veterinary hospitals. That's a $200 million plus portfolio. So I had to learn on my feet about P&Ls and management and operations and what a successful P&L looks like and how to build budgets and all that business aspect. And I felt that the MBA would then give me that book learning I needed to know to sort of cap off, my experience that came with that, which also brings me to why I'm getting a Juris Master's, which is a master's in legal studies, because I also deal with contracts and not just doctor contracts, but vendor contracts and things like that as well. So I believe that will also help me in my business. I'm a big proponent of improving oneself for either the opportunity that you're in right now or future opportunities, because you have to look out for yourself. Don't wait for someone to come along and say, oh, we'll give you money for tuition to get this degree. Go ahead and reach for it yourself and, continue to grow your own skill set and set yourself apart. I do know that having my MBA has helped to set me apart when it comes to certain roles and opportunities. And I also believe that my Juris Masters will help me in that respect as well, even in my consulting business, having that knowledge and being able to go into hospitals and, do budgets with them and help them with their budgets and help them with managing their costs and things as well. So it was sort of to continue my own education. I believe in self-improvement, and I will always keep doing that.
Yeah, it's clear that you have this inner drive to learn and expand and improve. But it's also strategic that you're brave enough to take the leap to say, I'm just going to go for it and get this degree, knowing that in the future, it's probably really going to help open more doors and make me more confident and more capable in the roles that I'm facing in the future.
Right. And I tell not just, I tell all veterinarians this, or any friend actually, but I definitely speak to minority veterinarians about, stepping into leadership, but preparing yourself for that. I mean, even if it's getting a certificate in business management or something, it's okay to, go ahead and do that self-improvement so you can put that forward along with your experience, along with your skill set. It just sort of all then sort of comes together in this nice little cake is what I say.
Oh, yeah, it's so good. Well, okay, to bring this full circle, I would love to know how people could engage with you. So I'm imagining if I were in a doctor's shoes, I might be listening to this and thinking, wow, I have so many more questions. I'd really like to, speak with you directly and understand more about how I can move forward with some of these ideas. What kind of ways do people normally engage with you around these topics?
Sure. So I am a brave person. One, I'm going to provide an email. I have no problem with providing an email. And then you could also find me at Pam Hale, DVM MBA on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, doing quite a few posts, articles and comments and things. But my email is Pamelar. My first name is Pamelar, Pamelar Hale, Hale @att.net. Easy to remember.
Yep.
Please feel free to reach out. You have any questions? You have any businesses you'd like me to look at to help you as you're managing or starting a business, or just how do you move through the veterinary world? Anything you want to talk about business-wise or otherwise. I'm at the phase for myself, which I say my ambition is not just for myself anymore. My ambition is to help other people to achieve their goals and to let them know what opportunities are out there in the veterinary world. I really do that. I've talked to several doctors and I tell them, okay, this is what I hear. This company's doing, this company's doing, this company's going. Which one of those interests you? So that they know the opportunities are there, because there's a lot of opportunities like the hybrid model I mentioned that doctors don't even know is out there for them to even inquire about. So I definitely like to help people get to where they're going, where they want to go, help them figure it out, even if they're not sure. But yes, please reach out.
Yes, and people, please do. Like this, it really is like a mentorship model. It's so comforting to be able to speak with someone who has so much more experience and such broad experience, like not just veterinary experience, but business experience, financial experience, now also learning law, that, don't waste your time trying to reinvent the wheel yourself. Speak with her. She knows what she's talking about. She can save you a lot of time. And Dr. Pam, I really appreciate you being on today and speaking about this topic, which we often don't talk about. It's the elephant in the room. And I think that we did a wonderful job today of highlighting the importance of really valuing yourself and going after building wealth, that it's not an evil, bad thing to do, and to look at leadership and how veterinarians can step back into the leadership role and really make sure that the quality of medicine is kept to the highest standard.
Thank you, Crystal. And you said it all right there. If that's it in a nutshell for me. And veterinarians, we are a valued part of society, and there's no reason that we shouldn't enjoy a successful career that involves wealth building and leadership.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Pam, thanks again for being on today.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you feel stoked after listening to this episode. And as always, I would love to hear your comments and feedback. Is there a topic that you want to know more about? Please let me know. And thank you again for subscribing and sharing your favorite episodes with others. It really means a lot.